baby, how was school today?
Mom, these kids at school kept making fun of me and they kept calling my hair nappy. Why, Mom?
Tootie, look, just read this book and it'll tell you everything you need to know.
There's another N-word we throw around in and out of the black community called nappy. We have taken that word like the other N-word, nigger, and made it a word of adornment. I have heard the word nappy my entire life, which was used to insult, degrade, and hurt someone. This word is a derogatory term that was used in our ancestors' consulting.
Available now.
I love myself.
Same tree, different branch.
I hope you love yourself, because love is only love when you love somebody else.
What hair looks like after slavery. Transatlantic slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade by the European changes everything for Central and West Africans. Let's briefly talk about the transatlantic slave trade. The Portuguese and later the English, the French, and the Dutch got involved in enslaving Africans in large parts of West Africa, the Gulf Coast of Guyana, and the Congo River Basin, were significant areas of human exports to the Americas, mostly to sugar plantations in the Caribbean. By the late 17th century, the so-called triangle trade developed. European ships loaded with guns, textiles, tobacco, and manufacturing goods sailed to Africa's slave ports and traded those goods for captives. European slave traders then took those Africans to the New World where they were sold. With that money, the European purchased staples such as sugar, tobacco, rum, and coffee, then sold for enormous profits back in Europe. The profits was often reinvested in other goods to be traded for captives back in Africa, and so on. If you want more in-depth information on the transatlantic slave trade, I recommend you read Hugh Thomas' book titled The Slave Trade, the story of the Atlantic slave trade 1440 through 1870. This is a thick book, roughly 912 pages, and worth sacrificing some of your time to read. The book is almost the same price as a supersized combo from a fast food restaurant, destroying the image of African hair. Europeans who had traded and communicated with Africans knew the complexity and the significance of black hair. They were often struck by the various hairstyles that they saw within each community. In an effort to dehumanize and break the African spirit, Europeans shaved the heads of enslaved Africans upon arrival to the Americas. This was not merely a random act, but a symbolic removal of African culture. The shaving of the hair represents the removal of any trace of African identity and further acts to dehumanize.
What up, y'all? It's Sean P, man. Alafia, John Mayan Boca. Peace to everybody in the chat. Peace to everybody that catching the replay. Peace to all of you who may straddle in here a little bit late. Please like the show, share the show, tell a friend, we're live. I have a nice bill together that I have put together for everyone. Ty Sam, you might show up at some point, and it's really for you and all your Aboriginal lying motherfucking people. Excuse my French. I'm going to make this as educational as possible. I am going to be dealing with the facts. Nothing but the facts. See, what I learned a long time ago when I stepped foot in this community was that it was evident for you to know how to do research. And I'm not talking surface level research. That's what Google is. Google is a tool that's used to just quick search something and kind of build on it from there. And a lot of people, they go live, and Wujawa was big on this. People would Find something out today. Ain't read the information. Go live and talk about it. And hadn't done any other independent research regarding the subject matter. Just go live and talk about it. That handicaps a lot of people. There's a lot, but ultimately, it is what it is. Hopefully, y'all can still hear me. Okay, yeah, I'm cool. All right, so here's the thing. These guys have no methodology. Cool. They don't know how to do research. They don't know research methods. They don't know what qualitative and quantitative is. There's a lot of things that they don't know about the technicalities of research. Now, what I mean by research is I'm not talking surface level, like I said earlier. I'm talking primary, right? Do you have the compensity to go look at evidence that's written in the time period in which you're referring to? And can you comprehend that information and then be able to disseminate that information to others or share that with other people who may be interested in the same subject matter and be honest and have the integrity to be honest? So yeah, this is the lunch hour with the Mossi. So I'm going to get you through your lunch. And hopefully I get some of you through your workday as people straddle in and out. I do see people clicking in, clicking out, clicking in, clicking out. And that's cool. I get that. Remember this. People hate me. So if people show up to watch me, that's a plus. They hate me. They don't like me. They think I'm arrogant. They think I'm this. They think I'm that. That's what they think. I don't give a damn about what they think. Long as we get to the truth of the matter. I don't care about your feelings. Your little personal issues you have with me, you deal with that on your own time or when you see me. But when it comes to this information and the scholarship behind that, you have to bow down and you have to pay your respect. Or you can just hate. Don't matter. I don't give a damn. It's 2023. My goal for 2023 was to have more haters than a Siam motel. And I'm doing a good job. So far, so good. All right, so look. I ain't pushing nothing on nobody, bro. What you cancel your comment? Bow down the audacity. Okay, so I want to take people back 4 years ago. It's 2023. So I want to take you back to 4 years ago when Kofi has done his third install regarding some research that he came into the Mossi Warrior Clan with. 4 years ago, almost 5, 4 years ago. And then I want to share some other things to see where Kofi is in that presentation and what can be added to or extracted from. You're going to hear some things that are going to be very familiar to your ear. And then you're going to hear some things that are going to question the position and perspective of a lot of people. When I told you that people that's claiming to be Seminole, the black people that were claiming to be Seminole, are descendants of West Africa, I meant every bit of that. Every bit of it. And if you don't believe me, I got the evidence to stand on. What up, not a seat? What's good, brother? I know you working, man, so you know what I mean. I'm holding down a fort, you know what I mean? It's Friday, you know, you working, you know what I'm saying? When you get off, you know, The marathon begins, I guess. But I want to give y'all a chance to see the importance of presentation. You're not going to see this no other way, right? Now, this video is old. Hold on, before I get started here, I do need to address something in the chat. There's this guy, his name is Will. He's in the chat. Whoever you are, Will, how you doing? He said, you really just lied to my people. Who is your people, Will? Then he says, Goofy. Right? Those are what he said. He says, Goofy. And then there's another comment that he says, do your effing research, idiot. So I am an idiot. I am goofy. And I need to do my research. Right, Will? That's what you said. So guess what? I'm going to show you my research. After I show you a 4-year-old presentation done by Kofi on this channel. You see it on your screen right now. Seminole Freedmen, Black Seminole Scouts. Yeah, I'm choosing violence. So Will, hold up. Let me prove you that you said. Let's people over here. There's so much information out there. You worse than the pale faces out here with the Pan-African shit. First of all, I'm talking about history. I'm not talking about Pan-African anything. You don't know about Pan-African. So for you to insinuate that I am out here on some Pan-African shit, you need to shut the fuck up and listen, or you could go somewhere else. I'm not going to block you. I'm going to allow you to sow your ignorance in the chat today. Right. He told me to go do my own research as if I don't have my information already tied to. Everybody knows in the description of this video, I already have the sources that's going to substantiate my position. So while you're an emotional wreck in the chat, you need to take the advice of not a coincidence and go get your pen and paper. Class is about to start. No talking. So let's begin. Let me hide the chat. Blow this up. Let's full screen Kofi. Again, this video is 4 years old. Now, when Kofi begins to present his information, his sources will be, I forgot how he sourced this 4 years ago, but he does have all of his sources at the end of this presentation. 906 is the start. This is some of his right here. Skip ahead to show you some of Kofi's sources. All right. These are Kofi's sources. Okay. All right.
In Georgia rice plantation. So hopefully everybody checked out those two presentations. If you checked out those two presentations, you'll be up to speed on this presentation. Before I get started, this is also a phrase that we do. This is a phrase that was coined by my brother Sean California. This is something that we do before we do any presentation because we are at war with our history. We are at war
with our culture. We are at war with our traditions.
Not a C. I just wanted to let you know this. 4 years ago, really 5 years ago, when we were doing our presentations and shit, what he's talking about is me saying, let's go to war, because that's how we was feeling. We was at war about our history, our culture, our existence, everything. And guess what? We still at war.
So let's get it. This is something I always do before I do any presentation. I have to put a disclaimer out there. Manifest destiny, I mean, I'll be talking about another little treaty. But real quick before I get into the presentation. The Indian Removal Act, 1830, signed into the laws 1830 by President Andrew Jackson. The Indian Removal Act, they were forced to assimilate it and concede to the U.S. laws and leave their homeland, and the Indian nation themselves were forced to move and ended up in Oklahoma. The 5 major tribes affected were the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Creek, and the Seminole. I talked about these 4 so-called civilized tribes in the last presentation. You hear me say so-called civilized tribes. These were tribes that were that adopted the ideology, adopted the philosophy, adopted the bylaws, or integrated their bylaws, constitutions of the Europeans into their society. They married white women. They own slaves. Yes, and these Indians own slaves. They own our ancestors. Were very rude to them. Cruel to some tribes were a little bit more crueler than the other one. But this is the Indian Removal Act that was passed in 1833, where they started trying to push the Indians out of the territory into Oklahoma, where the Creek Nation, who was to me was the wickedest one, which was an amalgamation of a bunch of groups. But if you want more information on that, go back to the Black Seminoles, the Africans who escaped South Carolina and Georgia, rice plantation presentation that I did. Manifest Destiny, a phrase coined in 1845. Yes, this phrase was coined by a journalist, an editor of, I think it was a Democratic Democratic something newspaper, and the New York Times, New York Morning newspaper, where he coined the phrase manifest destiny, where he believed, and later on others believed, that it was destined by God for them to expand the United States territory, spread their religion, their policies, their politics, and so forth. Expressed by the philosophies that drove 19th century into the territory's expansion. Manifest Destiny held that the United States was destined by God. It advocated belief to expand in the dominion and spread democracy and capitalism across the entire North America continent. All right, this here is the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidegolo, if I said that right. February the 2nd, 1848. Again, I'm just trying to establish a few things before I get started with the presentation. So if you hear me talk about these things, you'll kind of be already up to speed on them. Following the defeat of the Mexican armies and the fall of the Mexican cities in September 1847, the Mexican government surrendered a peace of negotiation beginning. The war officially ended in February the 2nd of 1848, signed in Mexico, and the treaties of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The treaty added an additional 525,000 square miles to the United States territory, including the lands that make up all parts of the present-day Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, Wyoming. Mexico was gave up in the claims to the Texas, recognizing the Rio Grande as American southern boundaries. In return, the United States paid $15 million, agreed to settle all claims in the U.S. citizens against the Mexico. So in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about further events before we even get to, and I'm reiterating on a few things from the first 2 presentations that I did. I may be reiterating a few things and we'll be talking about the Texas Revolution, Mexico independence, the Mexican-American War, Spain owning Texas at one time. We know Texas was Mexico. Andrew Jackson trying to buy Texas, some part of California, and New Mexico from the government of Mexico. We're gonna get into all of that before we get into who the Scouts is, even though we should already know who the Scouts, the Black Scouts, or the Black Seminole Scouts, or the Seminole Freemen are, if you looked at the first two videos. Now, the Texas Indian War. The Texas Indian War was a series of 19 series conflict between settlers in the Texas and Southern Plain Indians. These conflicts began when the first wave of European American settlers moved into Spanish Texas. Like I said earlier, Spain owned Texas at this particular time. Hold on. Spain owned Texas at this particular time. To continue through the Texas time as a part of Mexico. When more Europeans and Anglo-Americans arrived, the subsequent declarations of the independence by the Republican Texas. The conflict did not end until the 30 years after Texas joined the United States. Although several Indian tribes occupied the territory.
All right. Will says, I'm listening, bro. Please prove me wrong. I will be glad to prove you wrong, Will. I just need you to listen. I'm just tired of people misleading the people who are and were from here before any of the $5 shit. That is incorrect, Will. I have a series of shows with evidence that can be reviewed and substantiated and supported with additional evidence that tells you that we were not here at all. We were not here. In no capacity, we were not here. So, Will, I've proved you wrong already. Using genetic evidence, yeah, your biological makeup, you are a human being, sir. And by using the data that we can extract from you, we have already put you in a place that you belong. You are not here. Okay? So when you say $5 anything, you're portraying to be $5. Get them people back their history and their culture. Let's go.
Territory in the area, the preeminent nation of the Comanches, known as the Lords of the Plains, who were from, they say, the Great Plains and from the Canada, Paris. The territories, Spanish, the Mexicans, and finally the Texans. The conflict lasted from 1820, just before the Mexican gained independence from Spain, until 1875. So the Mexico ended up getting their independence from Spain, and then certain things happened while Spain was there. You start to see Europeans come in. This is before the United States. This is before Texas became a state or a territory of the United States at this time. And you had different groups of Europeans coming in. They started calling themselves the Texans, and then the Mexicans, which we know Mexico was Texas. You know, when you talk about Oklahoma, you talk about Texas, you talk about Arizona, you talk about Nevada, you talk about Colorado, you talk about New Mexico, a few other places that I'm mixing. This was all Mexico at one time. And the Mexicans won. The Mexican government won their independence back from Spain at that time, when Spain was in the Spain War with the Mexicans, with the Mexican government. They won their independence back. It was a surge of Europeans coming in at that time, and then the Mexicans, they passed a law stopping Europeans, immigrants, from coming into Texas, or what we would call Mexico. These conflicts lasted from 1820, just before Mexican gained independence from Spain, until 1875, when the last free band of Plain Indians, the Camachos, led by Quijada warrior Quijada Parker, surrendered and moved to a Fort Sill reservation in Oklahoma. The half-century struggles between the Plains tribes and Texas became particularly intense after the Spanish and the Mexicans left power to Texas Americans in the United States opposed to the tribes. Their wars of the Plains Indians was characterized by deep animus slaughter on both sides, and in the end, near total conquest of the Indians. Some Gullah slaves managed to escape from the coastal South Carolina and Georgia south into Florida Peninsula. In the 18th century, Florida was vast tropical wilderness covered with jungles and malaria-ridden swamps. The Spanish claimed Florida, but they used it only as a buffer between the British colony and their own settlement territory farther and south. Bryson, son, excuse me, y'all. Son, I'm live. You're going to have to be quiet. All right. Now, people who follow who was the Gullah people and who was the Gullah people, we know that the Gullah people are the people that came from Sierra Leone and came from Liberia. Those Gullah people are who they call the Angolians, who came from Angola, or what I would like to refer to as Ndongo. And the Gullah people and the Kissi people migrated out of Central Africa, and they went into the Ivory Coast. They went into
hold up. He said the Gullah people are from where, Kofi? Where do you say the Gullah people from?
People and the Kissi people migrated out of Central Africa, and they
hold on. Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
The people that came from Sierra Leone and came from Liberia.
No.
Malaria-ridden swamps. The Spanish claimed Florida, but they used it only as a buffer between the British colony and their own settlement territory farther and south. Bryson, son, excuse me, y'all. Son, I'm live. You're going to have to be quiet. All right. Now, people who follow who was the Gullah people and who was the Gullah people, we know that the Gullah people are the people that came from Sierra Leone and came from Liberia. Those Gullah people are who they call the Angolians, who came from Angola, or what I would like to refer to as Ndongo. And the Gullah people and the Kissi people migrated out of Central Africa, and they went into the Ivory Coast. They went into Liberia. They went into Sierra Leone, and Sierra Leone and Liberia was a swampy place. This is where the Gullah people, the Kissi people, the Bassa people, the Kono people, the Timni people, the Mindi people, they all inhabited those areas, and a lot of those tribes amalgamated with each other tribes because of the smaller tribes. The Gullah people, as other ones, they were cultivating rice in these swampy areas in Liberia and Sierra Leone, and South Carolina, North Carolina, not South Carolina and Georgia, excuse me. In this area, they had these swampy areas and so forth, and they target the Gullah people, also the Mindi and other ethnic groups, and took them to the Bunks Island and brought them over here to South Carolina and Georgia. I showed you in the first presentation some of the bills of sales, and particularly the bills of sale these slaves were coming from Liberia and Sierra Leone. And they was put in these areas to cultivate rice. And as they cultivated the rice.
So these South Carolinians, Georgians, and Floridians that were brought over here from distinct locations are definitely, their offspring are definitely descendants of the areas that have been named. Okay? That is what he is saying. Now, he's elaborating because of his research. This was almost 5 years ago. It'll be 5 years later on in a few months. But this was almost 5 years ago, and he was clearing up this whole Seminole shit. Then, so I'm gonna let him go.
They was on the plantation. The owner, the slave master, um, wasn't on the plantation due to the swampy area of malaria and other different diseases that our ancestors was already immune to for being in South Carolina and Liberia. And at this time, Spain also owned Florida. And as Spain owned Florida, Florida became a safe haven or became a free town for.
Just to make a correction, he meant Sierra Leone and Liberia, okay? Not South Carolina. He meant Sierra Leone.
The people, the Gullah people who became the Gullah people. And the Gullah people also escaped and went into, and I'm not finna go into, like I'm saying, go into the whole thing. You can go to the presentation to look, but just trying to get people a little bit up to speed of what this slide is talking about. And Britain and Spain fought for the territory. Spain owned it, and they fought for the territory. They made it a free town for the slaves, for our ancestors. So our ancestors escaped from Georgia, South Carolina, went into Florida. Some of the other native, so-called Native American Indians, they also retreated from fighting with the European and went into Florida area at that time also. The colonies, their own settlement territories farther south. They wanted to keep Florida as a dangerous wilderness frontier, so they offer a refuge to escape slaves and renegade Indians from the neighboring South Carolina and Georgia. Black Seminoles, Gullahs who escaped from slavery. The Black Seminoles are a small offshoot of Gullahs who escaped from the rice plantation in the South Carolina and Georgia.
Say it again.
Black Seminoles, Gullahs who escaped from slavery.
Who the
native so-called.
Listen closely. Who are the Black Seminoles, Kofi?
Native American Indians. They also retreated from fighting with the European and went into Florida area at that time also. The colonies, their own settlement territories farther south. They wanted to keep Florida as a dangerous wilderness frontier, so they offer a refuge to escape slaves and renegade Indians from the neighboring South Carolina and Georgia. Black Seminoles, Gullahs who escaped from slavery. The Black Seminoles are a small offshoot of Gullahs who escaped from the rice plantation in the South Carolina and Georgia. They built their own settlements on the Florida frontiers, fought a series of wars, and preserved their freedom, and were scattered across North America. They have played a significant role in American history, but have never received a recognition they deserve. And we're going to talk about the recognition that they should have got when we get to the Black Scouts. So we know that the people that was in South Carolina and Georgia that was on the rice plantations, they are from Sierra Leone and Liberia. The Gullah people. We know the Gullah people became the Gullah people, Liberia. The Gullah people. We know the on the rice plantations, they are from Sierra Leone and Liberia. The Gullah people. We know the Gullah people became the Gullah people. They are the only people in North America to keep their heritage, their African heritage and African lineage intact, attached, because the slave master was not on the plantation. The Europeans went on the plantation with them because they were scared of malaria and different other types of diseases that was carried on swamp, that our ancestors was already immune to these diseases on these swamp plantations. So they was able to keep their African heritage intact. We know during the Seminole War, the Seminole War I, the Second Seminole War that took place, we know the Stonewall Revolution that took place, these Gullah people who became the Gullah people in America, and then they escaped and went to Florida because Florida became a safe haven for them. That Spain told them if the African slaves made it to Florida, they would they would declare them free as long as they was able to help them fight against the British, because British were trying to take Florida away from Spain. So they escaped into what they call Saint Augustina. So the Black Seminoles, the people, the Gullah people became the Black Seminoles. We're going to get into the word Seminole. I talked about the word Seminole a little bit in the other presentation. All right. Comparing to other Native American Indian groups, the Seminole Indians are a fairly recent origin. During the 17th century in the southern United States, nearly every Indian, not a Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, was believed to be a Creek. During the 17th and 18th century, the Spain and English was engaged in a struggle for control of the Southeast. War on the Indians in Florida. So the country relocated into the Florida area previously occupied by other Indian tribes and became known as the Seminoles around the beginning of the 18th century. So the Seminole word is a very recent word, and a Seminole is an amalgamation of yes, they was in the Senegambia region as well. 843 Gullah News. Is a recent word, and we know the Seminole.
By the way, if I would have shown the chat, and I took the chat out for a reason, but we got a few Gullah people that were reviewing this while he is presenting this information. And you heard him assert to someone in the chat who is called 843 Gullah News. And that person insinuated that people that are in Senegal and the Gambia, or what we know as Senegambia, right? Because the Gambia is surrounded by Senegal. So Senegambian area, a lot of those people are those Gullah or those Black Seminoles that people are referring to are also from, Sierra Leone, Liberia, the Gambia, Senegal. Okay? We can't make that clear. Proceed.
Seminoles is an amalgamation of the Greeks, not the Greeks, but the Europeans started calling everybody basically that was in Florida Seminoles. The term Seminole is said to be Spanish. Seminole is said to be Spanish origin, derived from Cimarron or Cimarronos, meaning wild or untamed. It is referred to hostile non-whites and Africans whom the Spaniards had to contend with on their frontier. There are no R's in Hitchi or any other Muscogee languages. So when Indians attended to identify themselves as Cimarroons, the R became L, Cimarron became Semaloon or Semaloon. Europeans, they were trying to say they were not Greek. The Indians as Seminole Creek during the Revolution. However, the Spanish continued to reference to them as Cimarroons. The traditional founding Indians of the Creek nations were the Coatis, the Kashatis, the Kosasis, the Abikis. When interacting with the whites, they often referred to themselves as the Creeks. The Florida Seminole Nation is historically considered part of the 5 civilized tribes, and again, the so-called 5 civilized tribes. And again, those 5 civilized tribes were the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Seminole, and the Creek Nation. These are Indian groups that actually, again, took on the ideology, the philosophies, the way of life and perspective of the Europeans. Again, they married white women. They enslaved our ancestors, and so forth. Encountered European settlers during the North American early colony. Along with the Cherokees, the Chickasaw, the Choctaws, and the Creek, the Seminoles were typically regarded as civilized, and the Europeans gave them the 5 civilized tribes because, again, they adopted the European way of life. So the European already thought they was, they selves were civilized, which they was not. They were barbarians. You know, they was murderers, they was killers, sodomites, and so forth. But you know, they gave them the name the 5 civilized tribes. By white colonists became the broadly incorporated many European practices within their own respective culture. The adoption of the centralized radical or converting to Christianity during faculty stable relationships between the two groups over the years. Yes, they adopted the Christianity as well. These Indian groups. Excuse me. Excuse me, y'all. Adoption of centralized bureaucracy or converting to Christianity general faculty stable relationship between these groups over the years. The Seminole developed a robust trading network in colony Florida, which economically and geographically flourished over the course of several decades. In the late 1830s and the early 1840s, the U.S. government moved the Seminoles Negroes to the Indian Territory of what is now Oklahoma, which in turn out to be a hostile environment for them.
Pause. So, world peace to you, brother. Don't know who you are. Appreciate you coming to the channel. You said in your personal opinion. Well, in your personal opinion, that is a belief that you can't provide evidence for. So your opinion is irrelevant when it comes to history and primary evidence. Your opinion becomes an asshole. Everyone got one, everyone takes a shit. So it's irrelevant in this discussion. What do the facts say? Forget your opinion. What do the facts say? Where's the evidence to support your opinion? You don't have that. So the truth being told, brother, I'm about to transition into my spiel. For those of you who would like to watch the rest of Kofi's presentation, because I was only going to play about 30 minutes of it anyway, you can go back into our archives and watch it. But I actually left this presentation in the description. All right, but before I even go there, before I even do anything, come show me your evidence. Come show me your evidence, world peace. Let's look at your evidence. There's the link to the chat. Hit the link, brother. Hop on. Come show me your evidence. Because you started your sentence off. This is how you started your sentence off. In my personal opinion, we were the Indians. So in your opinion, right? Your opinion is not facts. Your opinion is not facts. And you said we were the Indians and you don't have evidence for that. But then you said, but not the teepees and bows and arrows, but star forts and old world structures. That makes absolutely no sense. Learn to dig 2 pits. That is Digital Pit Boss. What's up, Digital Pit Boss? I see you still lurking around, and you're absolutely correct. You're in time for sources. So I asked Brother World Peace if he has evidence to support his opinion, and he said that he does. I dropped a link, brother, for you to join the panel to demonstrate. Oh, you said no, it's not facts. You're agreeing that your opinion is not facts. Okay. So you don't have the evidence, or you do have the evidence? Who is we and what did you build? Who is we and what did you build? Because we can clear that shit up. Oh, all right. I know who it is now. All right. I was like, who? Because Digital Pit Boss name, he got a weird name, like your name. So I thought you was Digital Pit Boss, because his name's similar to how your name is right now, one of his troll accounts. Okay, so I take it that you're not gonna join. All right, so let me continue. I thought you was gonna be able to join. Not, you know what I mean? I can continue to get into the realm of advancing the subject matter with scholarship and not opinion. So Kofi had said something earlier on in his presentation where he talked about the Gullah, right? So here's an article about the Gullah that talks about rice slavery and Sierra Leone American connection. Now, I want to take my time. This is only 3 pages, and I know that some people don't have the compensity to comprehend. But there's something very important at the conclusion of this particular article that need to be said very slowly. But I wanna play this game with everybody. So I want to read the entirety of the article and then give you the 2 cents that just underlines everything else. All right? Okay, cool. What up, Khalil? What's good, brother? Now it says Black Seminoles, Gullahs who escaped from slavery. The Black Seminoles are a small offshoot of the Gullah who escaped from the rice plantations in South Carolina and Georgia. Remember, Kofi said in his presentation that the Gullah consists of Sierra Leone, Liberia, and then 834 Gullah threw in Senegal and the Gambia, right? All West Africans. Remember that. So if you hear me say West Africans in reference to the Gullah, I am specifically speaking of the origin place of the Gullah. Okay? Saying they come from these distinct locations in West Africa. All right? Now, let's move forward. They built their own settlements on the Florida frontier, fought a series of wars to preserve, were scattered across North America, played a significant role in American history, have recognition. Some Gullah slaves managed to escape from coastal South Carolina and Georgia south into Florida Peninsula. In the 18th century, Florida was a vast tropical wilderness covered with jungles and malaria-ridden swamps. The Spanish claimed Florida, but they did use it only as a buffer between the British colonies and their own territories further south. They wanted to keep Florida as a dangerous wilderness frontier, so they offered a refuge to escaped slaves and renegade Indians from neighboring South Carolina and Georgia. The Gullahs were establishing their own free settlements in the Florida wilderness by the late 1700s. They built separate villages and thatched roof houses surrounded by fields of corn and swamp rice, and they maintained friendly relations with the mixed population of refugee Indians. In time, the two groups came to view themselves as part of the same loosely organized tribe, in which blacks held important positions of leadership. The Gullahs adopted Indian clothing, while the Indians acquired a taste for appreciation for music and folklore. Suited to indispensable knowledge of tropical agriculture, and without their assistance, the Indians would not have been able to cope effectively in the Florida environment. The two groups led an independent life in the wilderness of northern Florida, rearing several generations of children in freedom. And they recognized the American settlers and slave owners as their common enemy. The Americans called the Florida Indians Seminoles, from the Spanish word Cimarron, meaning wild and untamed, and they called the runaway Gullahs Seminole Negroes or Indian Negroes. Modern historians have called these free Gullah frontiersmen the Black Seminole. So there's a distinct difference between the Seminoles and the Black Seminoles, or Negro Seminoles, or Negro Indian. Notice that. The Seminole settlement, Spanish Florida, increases more and more runaway slaves, and renegade Indians escape south. There's a clear, distinct difference. Renegade Indians and runaway slaves. And a conflict with America was sooner or later inevitable. There were skirmishes in 1812, 1816, and in 1818, General Andrew into Florida to claim war finally erupted. The blacks and Indians, check that out. The blacks and Indians fought side by side in a desperate struggle to stop the American advance, but they were defeated and driven south in the more remote wilderness in central southern Florida. And General Jackson, later president, referred to the First Seminole War as the Indian and Negro War. In 1835, the Second Seminole War broke out, and the full-scale guerrilla war would last for 6 years and claim its lives of 1,500 American soldiers. The Black Seminoles waged the fiercest resistance, as they feared the capture and surrender meant death or return to slavery, and they were more adapted living and fighting in the jungles than their Indian comrades. The American commander, General Jessup, informed the War Department that this, you may be assured, is a Negro and not an Indian war. And a U.S. congressman in the period commented that the black fighters were contending against the whole military power of the United States. When the Army finally captured the Black Seminoles, officers refused to return them to slavery, fearing that these seasoned warriors, accustomed to their freedom, would wreak havoc on the southern plantations. So in 1842, the Army forcibly removed them along with their Indian comrades to Indian Territory, now Oklahoma, in the unsettled West. The Black Seminoles exiled from Florida's strongholds were forced to continue their struggle for freedom on the western frontier. In Oklahoma, the government put them under the authority of the Creek Indians. You see where the confusion is coming in? See where the confusion is coming in. You remove these black people. You didn't put them back into to slavery, but you sent them to Oklahoma to be under the supervision of the Creek. Now, slave owners who tried to curb their freedom and white slave traders came at night to kidnap their women and children. In 1850, a group of Black Seminole and Seminole Indians escaped south across Texas to the desert badlands of northern Mexico. They established a free settlement and, as in Florida, began to attract runaway slaves from across the border. In 1855, a heavily armed band of Texas Rangers rode into Mexico to destroy the Seminole settlement. But the blacks and Indians stopped them and forced them back into the U.S. Indians soon returned to Oklahoma, but the Black Seminoles remained in Mexico, fighting constantly to protect their settlement from the marauding Comanche and Apache Indians. In 1870, after emancipation of the slaves in the United States, the U.S. cavalry in southern Texas invited some of the Black Seminoles to return and join the army, and it officially established the Seminole Negro Indian Scouts. In 1875, 3 of the scouts won the Congressional Medal of Honor, America's highest military decoration, in a single engagement with the Comanche Indians and the Pecos River. The Black Seminoles had fled the rice plantation, built their own free settlements in Florida wilderness, and then fought almost continuously for 50 years to preserve their freedom. It is the little wonder they should provide some of the finest soldiers in the U.S. cavalry. Today, there are still small Black Seminole communities scattered by war across North America and the West Indies. The Black Indians live on Andros Island in the Bahamas, where their ancestors escaped from Florida after the First Seminole War. The Seminole Freedmen, the largest group living in rural Seminole County, Oklahoma, where there are still official members of the Seminole Indian Nation. The Mescagos dwell in the dusty desert town of Nacimiento in the state of Coahuila in northern Mexico. And finally, the Scouts live in Brackettville, Texas, outside the walls of the fort where their grandfather served as U.S. cavalry. These groups have almost lost all contact with one another. All these Black people have almost lost all contact with one another. But they have all retained the memory of their ancestors gathering fight for freedom in Florida wilderness. In 1978, Dr. Ian Hancock discovered that elders among the Texas Scouts still speak a dialect of Gullah, 140 years after their ancestors were exiled from Florida and as much as 200 years after the earlier ancestors escaped from rice plantations in the South Carolina and Georgia area. In 1980, this writer found that elderly people among the Oklahoma Seminole freedmen also speak Gullah, while many younger people remember words and phrases once used by their grandparents. Both the Oklahoma and Texas groups, though deeply conscious of their Florida heritage, were unaware of their connection with the Gullah in South Carolina and Georgia. They did not know precisely where their slave ancestors had come from, fleeing into the Florida wilderness, ladies and gentlemen. Now, watch this. The Oklahoma Seminole freedmen still possess a rich traditional culture combining both African and American Indian elements. They continue to eat rice as a characteristic part of their diet, sometimes applying a sauce of okra or spinach leaves like the Gullah. And like their distant relatives in West Africa. So the people that we are referring to as the Gullah who went to Florida, then Oklahoma, and then to Texas, right? Let me make it clear. Are there, listen, they have distant relatives in West Africa. Let me double down on that. Freetown, get your book. I think you got there maybe Monday or Tuesday, bro. But I needed to ask you if you got it. So the Gullah, Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, them Seminole, them black Seminoles that people like to throw on the internet, the black Seminoles are a unique group of people because they have ancestry in Florida. So I know what you're saying. That ain't enough. It's just one source, right? Yeah, it's just one source. So in a 228-page dissertation, I have more information for you. So we're going to talk about the origins and cultural character of the Black Seminoles. We should all know the beginning story in the early 1500s. The earliest recorded evidence of blacks in Florida dates back to 1513 and relates to the Spanish exploration and settlement of Hispaniola. During this time, Spain declared exclusive sovereignty over land from the Florida Keys to Newfoundland and west to Mexico. In 1526, the Spanish settlement San Miguel de Guadalupe, near present-day Sapelo Sound, Georgia, was ostensibly the first colony with a number of African slaves. African. Remember that. Now, the Spanish almost immediately became aware of the potential danger of the alliance of non-whites in Florida. As a result, special legislation prohibited blacks from living and trading with Native Americans. This is something that, not a coincidence, presented to people in his argument and debate with Aboriginal power. However, due primarily to harsh living conditions worsened by disease and starvation, many slaves joined the Gullah Indian Rebellion. Remember now, these slaves were African. They would join the Gullah Indian Rebellion, setting fires to the settlement. The rebellion eventually destroyed the colony. Those Africans who participated in the rebellion were assumed by the Spanish to have migrated to remote parts of Florida, blending into Native American communities. Remember, these blacks participated in a rebellion, set fire to the colony, and fled to Florida and blended in with Native American communities. The Spanish would continue to be unsuccessful at establishing a permanent settlement and a foothold in the southeast until 1565, when Pedro Menendez de Alves established San Augustine, present-day St. Augustine, Florida. Among the Tamacan Indians, Mendez was granted permission through a royal charter to import 500 slaves. However, according to Landers, evidence suggests that fewer than 100 African slaves may have accompanied the first settlers. They're specific. The Gullah Indians would continue to resist Spanish encroachment and control throughout the 16th century. In 1576, a major revolt again occurred, which lasted 4 years. Many of the Gullah who participated were killed, and 19 of their towns were destroyed by fire. In 1583, a black labor force was sent from St. Augustine to the settlement of St. Elima, present-day Paris Island, to rebuild St. Elima. After the Spanish regained control of the area, St. Elima began the northernmost settlement of the Spanish. The Gullah would continue to rebel against the Spanish in 1597, when another series of revolts was suppressed. As a result, the Gullah settlements, particularly on the coast, went into a long period of decline and were eventually transformed into mission sites. By the end of the 16th century, Spanish settlements, particularly St. Augustine, were operating on the dwindling supply of slave labor, and reliant upon Havana for imports of enslaved workers. In the early 17th century, African slaves were in the demand and quite valuable in Florida. By 1606, Spanish Florida contained 100 slaves, of which 40 belonged directly to the Spanish crown. Spanish Florida would continue to rely upon the importation of black slaves from Havana. In 1618, Florida officials would again request slave laborers from Havana to replace the dwindling supply of slaves caused primarily by disease, starvation, ceaseless exploitation. Throughout the mid-17th century, yellow fever, smallpox were especially prevalent in the area of the deleterious to the health of black slaves and others. Spanish authority and exclusive control over the Southeast were challenged. In 1617, with the establishment of the English colony in Charlestown, or what we know as Charleston, hereafter South Carolina. Disputes over uninhabited lands quickly developed between the British and Spanish crowns. Both the English and Spanish understood the importance of blacks in their quest to develop and protect their interests in the region. Blacks' linguistic abilities, cultural awareness, knowledge of frontier, and military skills increased their importance of diplomacy, trade, and information gathering. 3 years prior to the establishment of Charleston, the Spanish governor reported the arrival of the first runaway slaves from English in Carolina. It was reported that 8 men, 2 women, and a small child had escaped on a boat to St. Augustine. Although the English both requested and demanded the return of the slaves, Spanish welcomed their arrival. This trend would not only continue, but increase to the degree that the Spanish king enacted the Edict of 1693, granting liberty to all runaway slaves. This is key, ladies and gentlemen, because you have not heard these motherfuckers mention this shit. The Edict of 1693. You can look that up. You can get familiar with it, and you can realize the importance of this and why it's so relevant. And it'll exile more of these fake ass Aboriginals. Even the guy named World Peace in the chat, who's claiming to spew his beliefs in the chat and argue with other people in the chat, while he has substantiated that it is his belief. It's not a fact. It is his belief. And so he's arguing his belief with other people with no evidence. That's ignorant. Why entertain that? Now, anyway, the Edict of 1693 granted liberty to all runaway slaves, the men as well as the women, so that by their example and by their liberality, others will do the same, according to Talangbe Ogunlega, two distinct black communities began to evolve in Florida. Autonomous maroon settlements in the wilderness of Florida, which cooperated with the Spanish authorities in the area presented by Pensacola and St. Augustine regions, and black settlement called Gracia Rio de Santa Teresa de Mos. Both communities established a relationship with the Spanish, such that they aided in the protection of Spanish interests. During the 18th century, the majority of slaves arriving in Carolina came from what? Yo, not coincidence. Not coincidence. I'm gonna give it to you again, brother. Not a coincidence. I know you're listening. I'm gonna give it to you again. During the 18th century, the majority of slaves arriving in Carolina came from West Central Africa. Yo, top cats. Top cats. Is you in the chat, my guy? You know, you said you wanted some tribal information. You wanted answers to some tribal information. Well, I'm gonna give you a little more than that. I'm gonna give you a little more than that. I'm gonna say this one more time. So because I gotta drive this point home. During the 18th century, the majority of slaves arriving in Carolina came from West Central Africa, including Angola, Senegambia. Again, there you go. The Gambia and Senegal, Windward Coast. So you just don't say Senegambia because that's two different distinct locations. Angola, Senegal, the Gambia, Windward Coast, Sierra Leone, and the Gold Coast. Of the 63,401 African slaves shipped to Carolina between 1733 and 1807, their origins were as followed. This is why when Sutek says, when he was asked by Top Cats, what's your tribe? What tribe you come from? And he says, I come from an amalgamation of West African tribes. He said, oh, brother, you can't come from an amalgamation of West African tribes. Oh, brother, yes, he can. Why? Because you got Senegal, Gambia, Windward, Gold Coast, Ouida, Benin, Calabar, Congo, Angola. Right? You asked me, Sean, you said, Top Cats, I'm referring to you right now. Top Cat said, what tribe your eldest grandfather from, man? Why you won't give me that? Because you ain't gonna believe that. Because I said that it's going to be an amalgamation also. I was supporting Sutek, but I was specific. Said the eldest. I said, one of them come from the Congo area. And you was like, that ain't good enough. What tribe? What tribe? What tribe? What is that? It can't be that. So if I just would have said Angola, you would have said, oh, well, yeah. You see what I'm saying? You're going to keep on going. But anyway, but there's an amalgamation. So this was set off an epicenter of why African Americans have such an adverse mixture of West African shit in them. We are an amalgamation of many different tribes of West Africa. Here's why. Just giving you just a piece, and this is just a little piece of the pie. This ain't the whole slice. This is a little piece of the pie. So now, runaway slave advertisements that y'all like to deny when Not a Coincidence pull this shit up and show y'all, and people like Danny, they like to come on here and throw the motherfucking advertisements in y'all face, and y'all think that it's pseudoscience when it's a primary source. The runaway slave advertisements and notices in South Carolina indicate that during the 1730s, approximately 57% of the runaways, where did they come from? The Congo, Angola region. During the 1740s, the percentage of Congo Angola runaways increased to 61%. Between 1735 and 1765, Congo natives made up the majority of the former slaves listed in the St. Augustine records of black marriages. So here we have it, the black maroon settlements in the wilderness, which Ogunleye refers to as self-emancipated Africans. Hold up, y'all. Who is these self-emancipated Africans? Here go that word that old boy don't like in the chat. Existed by utilizing a Pan-Africanist perspective in the social, political, religious, and military organization of their communities. What does the author mean when they say a Pan-Africanist perspective? We are all the same. Even though we come from many different places, we are the same, ladies and gentlemen. So what we're going to do is we're going to build on our struggle, and we're going to unite on our struggle, behind our struggle, and we are going to do something for ourselves so that we could be free. These maroon communities established close relationships with their neighboring Native Americans. These two communities lived for the most part in harmony and provided the foundation for what would later become what? The Seminole Nation. According to Ogunleye, these black maroon settlements created a dobel, or a culture that paid homage to no one particular African culture, but instead recognized and showed respect to the various cultures in their midst by fusing, synthesizing, and combining many African cultures. By fusing various African cultures, a Pan-Africanist ethos evolved within the community. See, this is what we mean by Pan. Pan just basically means all meaning what in reference? Africans. You got Pan-European, Pan-Japanese, Pan-Korean, Pan-Iranian. You got Pan-Mexican. You get or Pan-Native. You got all these other this saying all of this distinctive group of people, but we can't say Pan because they think it's some shit. Continue. Pan-African culture existed with the minimum European interface. These Pan-African cultural traits manifested themselves in a variety of cultural forms that distinguished their communities from both the Spanish society and the Native American communities. Meaning, i.e., we know who the hell we are. They didn't want to be Spanish. They didn't want to be Native American. They knew that we were an amalgamation of many West African tribes, and therefore we're going to separate ourselves. I'm talking about the Black Maroons, I'm talking about the Black Maroons, the first. I am some stuff that my brother Kofi shared in the first 30 minutes of his presentation. So let's go. These Pan-Africanist cultural traits manifest themselves in a variety of cultural forms that distinguish their communities from both the Spanish and Native American communities, regardless of their proximity. Research has shown that these cultural traits were most prevalent in the communication, artistic expression, and religion. What? Say that one more time, Sean. I don't think that they heard you in the chat. They didn't hear you. Research has shown that these cultural traits were most prevalent in communication, artistic expression, and religion. The Maroon settlements used an African what? Hold up. You're not a C. You remember them dudes? They was arguing with you and they was like, well, what type of writing system were the Africans using to communicate, right? You remember? Well, they really didn't ask you how they were communicating or what language. Yeah, they did. I'm playing dumb. Why I'm playing dumb? They said, what language was they speaking? What writing system were they using? Was it African? Not a C. I want to bring forth to you a submission that the next time one of them motherfuckers say this shit, that you have it on record and you know where to find this information, brother. The Maroon settlement used an African writing system to communicate amongst themselves. This writing system was created by blending the dialects present in the community as a whole. You want me to say that again? Or y'all got that? Y'all got that? Because we need to be clear here what we're talking about. They blended the dialects that were present in the community. So you got Senegal, the Gambia, Sierra Leone, Liberia, you know what I'm saying? Angola, Congo regions. You feel me? You got a blend of all of this shit from many different West African areas, and they put it in a pot like gumbo, created a dialect, and then presented it to the whole community. Now, W.H. Simmons, an observer of the Black communities during this time, okay, so people want to ask, where's the evidence or how do you substantiate this? It goes as follows. W.H. Simmons, you can look him up, was an observer of Black communities during this time. Recall seeing paintings on various trees throughout the settlements. Simmons noted that these paintings of noblest fine arts is not beyond the inventive power of the savages. The fine arts Simmons observed were actually African scripts utilized in communication. Also, during the Second Seminole War, object scripts were discovered, which denoted military strategies. So, where you a key right now, but here we go. So let's support Kofi right here, right? What he presented, because you had some corrections in the chat. The exact form of writing, whether it be the Andrinka symbols, where would that be found? That's in Ghana. In Subidi, the Suna, and the Oroko, or even a combination of various writing systems, is not known. Further research is needed to identify the writing systems and object scripts. Now, granted, at the time, this person don't have the information that we have today to substantiate what we know. Simmons observed more concrete illustrations of cultural expression. Distinct African dances were performed. He witnessed both Black and Native American ritual dances. So he knew that there was between the two dances. Oh. The brother World Peace says there's a lot of talking, but no paperwork. Brother, come present your information and they're challenging your opinion because they have evidence that says otherwise. You know, the kind of shit that you don't have because you have a belief. So let me finish. Let the beat, this is how you let the beat build. This is what Lil Wayne was talking about on Carter 3. When he said, this is how you let the beat build, bitch. Emphasizing the bitch. This is how you let the beat build. You let it simmer in a spirit, sizzle in a spirit, and then you bring it in. So again, both Black, according to Simmons, Native Americans' dance were highly martial and graceful. But guess what? While the dances of Blacks were lively, vulgar, and awkward. Oh yeah, you know, there was a lot of booty shaking. There was a lot of hip moving. There was some grinding. You know what I'm saying? There was rhythm. There was spirit. There was that, yeah, you know how we get when we're in the club, you know what I'm saying? And she got on that little bit of tight thing. You know what I'm talking about. Come on, man. Now, Simmons' unfamiliarity with African cultures and personal bias against blacks appear responsible for his negative description. Duh. Nevertheless, he does indicate a significant difference in the dance patterns of blacks and Native Americans. So for my Aboriginal community out there that was trying to claim that this was that y'all motherfuckers been here and that this is your history and that is your history, ladies and gentlemen, we have someone who observed this shit clearly tell us that there was a difference between these two groups. They had created their own communication system from an amalgamation of African writing systems and language communicative efforts. When they danced, there was a clear distinguishing difference between the two. One that was vulgar, one was this, one was that. The other one that was martial and graceful. We don't do martial and graceful. We black. Our women like to shake their ass. And naturally, we gonna grind up on that ass shaking. They like to move their hips. They like to wind for us. And we gonna get behind that wind. This is how we know our Africanness. Ladies and gentlemen, what I am basically showing you is our Africanisms in America. But let's continue. It is also important to know within the context of ritualistic dances and rites, the two groups maintained a degree of cultural distance. According to Seminole Indian historian Susan Miller, blacks, regardless of their living arrangement, were not participants in the Seminole busk ritual. There you go, not a C. There's a clear distinction. The Seminoles, they did a busk ritual. We didn't participate in that shit. No matter how cool we was, we didn't do that shit. Whatever that shit was, we didn't do that. That was an Indian only shit. That was for my boy Thomas now. You know, Thomas in the chat, Thomas, Oklahoma. His people, they did that shit. That was because that was sacred, right? That was sacred and significant for them. So we didn't cross that line and disrespect their shit. Now, thus, regardless of the close relationship that developed between the two, certain cultural expressions were unique for each group. So we respected each other's perspective. We knew the difference between who we were and who they were. Come on, man. What we talking about? In time, Maroon communities developed into two separate settlement villages and towns adjacent to Native Americans. I'm gonna run that back. Sister Juju, Sha1, Khalil, Keisha, Digital Two Pits, Khalil, Not a Seat. You know what I'm saying? I'm OHF. I'm gonna run this back for y'all. It said that they built two separate settlement villages and towns adjacent to Native Americans, meaning that our black asses built our own towns and the Native Americans built their own shit, and we would come together when we needed to come together to fight and handle business. There wasn't no beef. Now we got an amalgamation of black folk building their own separate villages and towns. These black folks are Africans from designated areas that we've named earlier. So here we go. The first noted town was Angola. It was located near present-day Tampa Bay along the Manti River and closely associated with a large community, not adjacent, but in the vicinity. So let's stop right there, ladies and gentlemen, and let's go look up Angola in Tampa Bay. Let's pull it up. I'm gonna share my screen and we just gonna go to Wiki. We ain't gotta do too much. We just gonna go to Wiki, right? Keep it simple. We ain't gotta do nothing stupid. So here you go, Angola, Florida. Angola was a prosperous community of up to 750 Maroons, escaped slaves, that existed in Florida from 1812 until Florida became a U.S. territory in 1821, at which point it was destroyed. The location was along the Monte River in Bradenton, Florida, near Monte Mineral Springs Park. The exact location is expansive, ranging from where the Braden River meets the Monte River down to Sarasota Bay. Archaeological research focuses on the Monte Mineral Spring, a source of fresh water, and later the location of a village of Monte two decades after the destruction of the Maroon communities. Archaeological evidence has been found, and the archaeology report by Uzi Barim is on file at the Florida Division of Historical Resources and the Florida Department of State. So we have the evidence to support the town that was built by the blacks who were descendants of Africans and who expressed their Africanness and who are linked to be called the Maroon, quote unquote, the Seminole. Ladies and gentlemen, we have clearly made a clear distinction that the Maroons that were in Florida are not Aboriginal, they are African in origin, and the evidence separates the belief that anyone, our Aboriginal power, Tight Sam, all you motherfuckers that wanted to test my research and capability, wanted to sit here in these chats and make these assertions. Well, I am here to let you know, my brother, y'all are not fucking with my ability to do primary research and give it to you. Because I just sit on it until I get enough. So shout out to my Memphis brother, Tight Sam, because he was so boisterous last week when we was on Not a C show, trying to argue with me, wanted me to read some shit about the Maroons and the Seminoles, because he was trying to claim that these people have been here and that they were indigenous. And I clearly walk you down the path very slowly to introduce you to Angola, Florida. I'm not done. I am not done. I am far from being done. So those Gullah people that make up who these people are, an amalgamation of these people, are descendants of Africans. They come from various places which we named. Then they go into Florida as escaped slaves, build a community up. You know, those Cimarroons, the Maroons, yeah, you wanted to play word games, Tight Sam. Like, that's me smacking you in your face right now, bro. Like, wake your ass up. I have clearly put you on notice. You and everyone else that have been claiming that bullshit. Yeah. There you go. So let's continue. Now, evidence such as a letter from British merchants suggests the possibility of blacks inhabiting the region as early as 1772. You know, they talking about them blacks that I just mentioned, them blacks that's from Africa. You know what I'm talking about? Them motherfuckers, yes. Walked you down a yellow brick road only to disappoint your various beliefs. So, however, during the Patriot War of 1812 to 1814, blacks were noted as fleeing the Alachua County region after thwarting the attempts of Georgia planters to subdue them, according to Indian agent. Oh, what? Say that again? According to an Indian agent, Benjamin Hawkins, the Negroes now separate and at a distance from the Indians on the hammock or the hammock, not far from Tampa Bay. So these Negroes have clearly separated themselves from the Indians and let y'all know that we posted up in Florida We got the shit going on. We live. We doing our African shit down here. Ain't nothing y'all can do about it. We about our business. We Gullah. We Geechee. We all that. So what's next? What's next? On the Monte River, Angola provided blacks with the access to the Caribbean, Cuban merchants, and the broader Atlantic world. So because of where they set up, where Angola, Florida because they changed the name, where Angola, Florida was, these Africans had access to the Caribbean, the Cuban merchants, and the broader Atlantic world. They also had lines of communication with Spanish officials in the Havana were strengthened through the Cuban merchants. It is these merchants, the fishermen primarily, that revealed the name Angola as being utilized in reference to the black settlement. So by 1818, Angola's existence was known by the United States, Spanish, and British authorities. In 1821, Angola was destroyed by the United States. Its inhabitants, what happened? Either fled south to the Florida Keys, where they would be taken to the Bahamas with the aid of the Spanish, or resettled in the immediate east, just north of the present-day Bartow on the Peace River in close proximity of Native Americans. So when y'all talk about what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, think about what happened in Angola, Florida as well. Black people established a settlement that had great trade relations, build their wealth, their strength, all of these things that they needed to do. They town, right? This African town, right? Which was an amalgamation of people from the Congo, Angola, Gambia, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Liberia, many other places. I'm basically saying West and Central Africans built this motherfucker. You know, so Top Cats, when you ask me some shit, brother, I'm just only gonna give you the real history because you said that you're an Indian. Well, there's a clear distinction between us and the Indians. Clear distinction. Now, this settlement, let me go back just a little bit. Remember, I said the Bartow on the Peace River's proximity to the Native Americans. So now, this settlement was known as Menanti. Native Americans also fled the Alachua County region, relocated to the east of Angola along the Peace River in present-day Polk County, which is full of black people today. Polk County, oh, they got good football. Ain't that where Coach Prime from? Somewhere down there in Polk County. They got some good talent down there. Them boys chase rappers and shit in the sugar fields. Bruh still in the chat talking about lots of talking, no paperwork. Brother, I have a source on the screen. Sourced information. Substantiated everything that has been discussed. What is your disingenuous ass in the chat talking about? What are you talking about, World Peace? I sent you the link, my nigga. You didn't hop on the panel, my nigga. So what the fuck are you talking about? Don't be in my chat talking about no pseudo ass dolls rolls. That don't mean shit. You dumb. That's what dumb niggas do. Now, where were we? These particular Native Americans became known as the Seminoles. Thus, those blacks affiliated with the Seminoles became known as the Black Seminoles. So, for the record, right? I'ma chill after this, but for the record, when we distinguish who the Black Seminoles were, they were West and Central Africans. Been that way the entire time. Even the motherfuckers that ended up in Oklahoma, they were West and Central Africans. We know who we are, and you just took the biggest L in your community. trying to be a Maroon, trying to be a Cinnamoroon, trying to be a Black Seminole, or even a Seminole. You just gotta hold these motherfucking L's. So let's continue. Again, and I repeat, these particular Native Americans became known as the Seminoles. Thus, those blacks affiliated with the Seminoles became known as the Black Seminoles. A closer examination of their relationship will be discussed in the following chapter. By the advent of the Second Seminole War, 1835, there were five. How many? 5. Say it with me, chat. 5. Put a 5 in the chat. We got 5 on it. There were 5 distinct Black Seminole towns in which the majority of Black Seminole population lived. Let's go visit these towns. There were the Pilakalaha. So let's go look that up. Let's go look up this town. This is a Black town. A who town? It's a Black town. Let's find out. We ain't gotta, we just listen, we're just keeping it brief. We ain't gotta do too much of anything. We ain't gotta do too much of anything. We just want to keep it a brief little search, right? We just want to substantiate the claim that there were 5 Black towns. Okay, now let me know if y'all can hear this.
The town of Palaklakaha was established in 1813 by Black Seminoles, meaning many ponds in the Miccosukee language. Palaklakaha was the largest and most prosperous Black Seminole town in Florida, with a population of 100 men, women, and children. Many Black Seminoles were formerly enslaved peoples of African descent who fled bondage to Spanish Florida following the American Revolution. Driven into the Alachua and Suwannee regions by Georgia and Tennessee militias, they joined and mingled with the native Seminoles. Black Seminoles, though not formally adopted into the Seminole tribe, formed a relationship with the native Seminoles, who protected them from slave catchers in exchange for military aid and a portion of their crops as tribute. At its peak, Palaklakaha contained timber, thatch and daub homes, corn cribs, and fences. Residents may have accumulated few possessions beyond simple dishes, arms, beads, and handmade brushed pottery. During the 1820s, the settlement was visited by 2 American officials, Horatio Dexter and Lieutenant George McCall, who reported herds of cattle and horses, along with fields of rice, beans, melons, pumpkins, and peanuts. Palaklakaha was also known as Abraham's Town, named after Abraham, who came to the area after escaping slavery in Pensacola around 1826. Abraham served as a skilled interpreter and the voice of the Seminoles during treaty negotiations with the United States government. He rose to prominence as the counselor for Chief Micanopy, even accompanying him on a diplomatic trip to Washington, D.C. Abraham was later released from service in appreciation for his work. Assuming a connection to the Dade Massacre in 1835, United States Army soldiers, under the command of Brigadier General Abraham Eustis, burned Palaklakaha to the ground on March 30, 1836, during the second escalation of the Seminole War. All the residents of Abraham's Town escaped weeks before its destruction. During the conflict, many native Seminoles and some Black Seminoles, including Abraham, were forcibly relocated to Indian Territory in present-day Oklahoma as part of the Trail of Tears. Abraham died in Indian Territory sometime after 1870.
All right, so that just give you a little bit of there. Now, let's move on. So Terrence Weeks' archaeological findings at Palaklakaha provided insight into Black Seminole culture. These findings reveal how Palaklakaha differed from both the Seminole and plantation communities. The first example is an asymmetrical, non-geometrical layout of town, unlike their family homestead of the Seminole or normal linear layout of the slave quarters in plantation society. Palaklakaha's length to the width ratio was larger than of Seminole communities, yet smaller than the typical slave quarter. This talks a little bit more about that, but I'm going to end the paragraph and I'm going to stop right here and I need to move on. The second example relates to the pottery found at Palahaka. Triangular punctuates on the rim sherds recovered at Palahaka were not recovered at a nearby Seminole Indian site. We discovered that tiny triangles were inscribed on the rims of the pottery. It has been suggested that these markings were individualistic creations of Black Seminoles, much like a personalized marker's mark. These markings indicate an African presence. Given that the identical triangular markings are found on the 18th and 19th century Ghanaian pottery, ladies and gentlemen. So let me give you an example of this stuff. Okay, let's go take a look at the Palahaka pottery found. Damn. Why is you doing this to these wannabe Indians? Why is you doing that to these Indians, Sean? You gotta stop this shit. You can't keep fading them like this, bro. You can't keep fading them like this. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna pull this up so you can see the pottery. Now, I'm just gonna show you an image because I know a lot of people are like toddlers. All they need to see is a little image. So, okay, that zoom didn't work well. But anyway, you see this? Those triangular markings right there, that is what they're referring to. Let me get over here. Let me click on link. Click on link. But here you go right here. This is an example of what they were referring to. The triangular markings right here in the pottery. This is a no. Oh, I see the bombs in the chat. I see the bombs in the chat. Okay, I see the bombs in the chat. 2 pictures dropping the flex bombs in the chat. My sources are in the description of the video. What are you referring to? Reference a source. All my sources are already in the video. I mean, in the description of the video. So if you stop typing in the chat and hit X, and then you go type on more, you will see all my sources in the video. And all I'm doing to you right now, which is live in this demonstration, is I am pulling from my source, and then I am going to look that up in Google to substantiate and corroborate the evidence that has been stated. I don't mind doing that, but this is called, I mean, it's on the screen. Well, it's the second source in my description. So you should be extracting every single source that I put. Because you're trying to break my bill right now. I ain't trying to go all the way back up. What am I on? Page 29. There you go. Black Seminole Involvement and Leadership During the Second Seminole War by Anthony E. Dixon. All in the description. So I wanted to kind of lay that on y'all before I went any further. Because if I just keep going further, I'm just going to keep showing y'all the African presence in Florida, the African presence in Georgia, the African presence in South Carolina, who these Seminole people are. These maroon people are. There's more evidence because we can go look at the black glass bead, the blue, green, and clear beads. We can keep going. We got the evidence. Don't send us to Fort Brooks Cemetery. Most people are familiar with this already. Some may not. But I'm just showing you the Africanness in Florida. I am showing you who identity you're trying to steal and who identity you should be claiming. You should be claiming your Africanness because I just walked y'all, dog mollywopped y'all, mopped right into a trap. You are now in a trap. I can continue to do this. I can do this for Texas, for Top Cats. I can walk him all the way down. I can continue to do this again. So, look, without me, time, I'm not going to go, but this was earlier, right? He does an analysis and a review, the Lee Young, Texas Rangers, Sergeant Retired article. He gives credence to the book, The Seminole Freedmen, A History, right? And earlier on, he tells you immediately off the cusp, a study of the relationship between African Americans and Seminole Indians can be very complicated. And he goes through and he breaks this down and he tells you this about this book. There's the author, Lee Young, right there. I'm not going to bore you to death, but what the hell this do? This take us right back to Africa. But the last article that I just gave y'all should give you even more presence. Yesterday's work, when I told you about the migration from Alabama, should give you even more presence. We know what's going on. We ain't dumb. We ain't slow. We know who the Seminoles is. We know who the Black Seminoles is. And now we know who the Black Seminole Scouts are. We have distinctively qualified the maroon culture. We did that. There's no getting around it. There's no running and ducking and hiding. None of that shit. You wanted to know who the Maroons were? Nigga, now you know. Now you know. And you know with evidence. We ain't got to beat around the bush. So we know distinctively who we are in history. All right? Now, I'm going to do this one more time for everybody in Florida. Right? Because I brought this up and the last article was written so well that I needed to give you some supporting evidence for the last thing that we read. Right? This is another. That's page 13. This is another 225-page article that talks about the African Seminole settlement. Nope, they don't say Indian Seminole settlement. They say African Seminole settlement. Ecologies of the early 19th century century Florida. Oh man. Was y'all thought this was a joke? You talk about research? So this is a view from Palahaka. I don't even want to get into this because the last one just destroyed y'all, and then we turned around and found a supportive evidence, and this only corroborates everything that had just been mentioned to you earlier on and provided to you center stage. But it is more evidence that's going to take you to some archaeological sites. Black people was once on this land right here that y'all looking at. Black people who descend from Africa. Imagine them building things before it was destroyed on lands like this. I'm gonna stop. I'm doing too much. This too much work. This too much. I'm doing is way too much for a motherfucker that ain't got comprehension. No level of comprehension. It's too much work. I don't want to hear it no more. So this dude said a flood story in America. Did this dude just say a flood in America? He actually still flooded under maritime law. Oh, okay. You trying to look for that was way back up. All right, okay. My bad. That was a long time ago. Do not play games with me. Top Cats, that's why you don't come over here. You had to get punked into coming over here, then you ran. Aboriginal power don't come over here. Ever. Scared. Tyson won't even hit the link to join the panel. He out of here. Any of them people that you think got some information, they don't. I know what's up. I know what's up. So again, people still in the chat talking about some motherfucking dogs rolls, which we don't even give a fuck about. There's plenty of people that were African, that were mixed with African and Native ancestry, whose names are on the dolls rolls. There was some Africans' names that was on the dolls rolls, and they still kicked out. They kicked out of the tribes, not recognized by those tribes. So you using the dolls rolls shows me that you're still at level 1 abo in this conversation, meaning that you have a belief, you're projecting the belief for an hour, almost 2 hours. You've been in the chat with your belief, arguing this bullshit out of ignorance because you have not even cross-referenced your own information to substantiate or come to an honest conclusion. You have not concluded definitively with evidence. You still have a belief. You ain't even at the hypothesis stage, my nigga. You're at the regurgitation stage. That means you've done nothing independently to qualify your information that you're trying to argue in the chat. So we're going to dismiss you, right? We gave you 2 hours. So we're going to dismiss you now unless you're going to hit this motherfucking link. Your next comment, you will be out of here. Unless you're going to hit this motherfucking link. And you have evidence to substantiate that raggedy shit you're speaking in the chat, because this is a scholastic channel. We provide scholastic information and we source our stuff up, and we don't make claims in the chat. We don't make claims on the shows. We demonstrate, brother. You see what I just did for almost 2 hours? That was a demonstration. Granted, I gave credence to Kofi for about 30 minutes. So I'm gonna give Kofi the first 30 minutes of the show. You know what I'm saying? So about an hour and 20 minutes, because 7 minutes we went through the commercials and stuff like that. So I'm gonna say for about an hour and 20 minutes, I presented what I needed to present. So I bagged Kofi up, and I cleared up the whole Cimarron, Maroon, Black Seminole shit. I put the Africanness all over it, brother. I put the Africanness all over it. And what killed them is when I showed them Angola, Florida, how they came up with their own communicative ways. How they did this, how they did that, and even the pottery. Yeah, you ain't too tied up, my nigga. You've been talking in the chat. You've been typing in the chat for 2 hours. How's you tied up? How's you tied up, but you in your phone like this for 2 hours? Coming for 2 hours, bro. 2 hours straight. You saying the same shit over and over and over again in the chat, but you tied up. That sounds like some pet ass excuse. You had time to type. You could have talked that shit. Just say you scared, bro, because you ain't got nothing but a belief. That's your belief. We're going to leave it at belief. Don't argue your belief in my chat. Respectively, Don't argue your belief in my chat. We gonna ask you for the information behind it. Now, if you say this is my belief, the conversation over. You are now Christian. You are now a Muslim. You are now a Hebrew. I'm treating you just like I do them. You are now in the realm of I ain't got time to talk to you no more. Ain't no sense in talking to you. You're religious. You're a part of a cult, a religious cult. That's what you are. So I ain't dealing with that. I ain't dealing with that. Anyone else want to challenge or question the information presented? Anyone? Come on, come all. Not a C. I know you listening, bro, and I know you working, and I know it's almost time for you to get off in a couple of hours or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? And I know you laughing, but you can comment in the chat. Because I know that there was something in there that you was like, oh, you killed him. It's cool. Ty Sam, you a man's and all that. You owe me dinner, bro, when I come to Memphis. You owe me. You told me you was going to buy me dinner. You owe me dinner, Ty Sam. But I had to do it to you because you was drunk the other day and you was feeling too good and I was letting you have your little moment. I was letting you have your moment. I was like, I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it to Ty Sam. Like he testing me. He keep on. You read what the maroon is. Read it. Read what the Seminole is. Read it. You was charged. You was feeling too good talking about you did all that research. Remember, you said you did all this research. That you had all this stuff lined up already. Then you would have uncovered the Africanness in the whole entire argument, my brother. So I smell the cat. Teddy, you asked me what's up with the dogs. They are about to be on the 4th. They will be a month old. They will be we're moving them to mush right now, so they're transitioning from feeding off of their mama to dog food with what's that milk? Goat milk. A blend of soft dog food and goat milk mixed together for them to digest and eat. And they're being dewormed in that process as well. So they're going to be pooping up a whole lot, but they are available. Now, mind you, the Merle boy, he sold. The Merle girl, a dude is inquiring about the Merle girl, says he want to get her. So there's a potential that person buys that girl, and then all of them got tri markings and they're all compact and small. So there's going to be some black and tans, female and a male. There'll be a blue and tan, a light blue and tan, and a blue and tan, male and a female that'll be available. So we kind of got a female and a male of each different color. What up, True First? What's good with you?
What's up? What are the top rats at?
You said what Top Cat's at?
Yeah, because he made a video yesterday about you.
Oh, he did? Yeah, you the second person to say that. I'm not gonna watch it. I mean, I don't watch that channel.
He tried to come out like a thug.
Did he share the video of the exchange between he and I?
Yeah.
He did?
Mental health patients. He made up a big story, and his mental health patients be agreeing with anything he says. And those cult leaders and shit.
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah, that shit was funny. He's like, oh yeah, I got this one. I got this one scared.
Did I look scared?
Yeah, man, they did the same thing to me when I used to have my channel.
Yeah.
Like bringing it back.
Yeah, like he ain't prepared. But in that same discussion, he admitted, oh, you good, Sean, you good, you know, all of that. No. Yeah, I expect him to go over there to do that. You know what I mean? Because they're looking for life when it come to me. You see what I'm saying? They so-called been looking for me for a while, or mad on how I've been treating them for a while, that they looking for life, bro. You know what I mean? They looking for an aha moment, and he ain't even got it. He ain't get no aha moment from me. He didn't.
Nah, he never will. Cause all they talk about is bullshit.
Yeah, there's really. But nah, I'm not gonna view it and then, you know what I mean, try to deal with cleaning up his ego. That's all that is. That's his ego. So there's nothing scholastic about his ego. I'm not doing that. But yeah, man, how long you been tapped in?
For like, I believe by like 30 minutes.
Oh,
Watching it, yeah.
you missed a lot of the good stuff then.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the replay is there, but the sources are too. So everybody should have access to that.
And that's all we do, man. We bring resources, and all they do is talk and make up shit.
Right. Where's that dude named Will at? Will, you ran too? Because the other dude talking about the Dawes Rolls, man, he's different.
I don't know what's up with these fools with the Dawes Rolls. You know, it trips me out because they claim only the 5 civilized tribes, and they claim there was in the southeast. They don't realize there was so many tribes in that area, and they don't even claim none of them. They don't even know who they are. They like to claim the people that enslaved them, ancestors,
Right.
which don't make sense. And they always claim every Indian has a Dawes Wolf, but they don't. There's 3 Cherokee tribes. Only one has a Dawes Wolf and the 2 don't. There's 3 Choctaw tribes. Only one has a Dawes Wolf. You know? And they think only the 5 civilized tribes are the only one who was on the Trail of Tears, when they don't even realize there was a lot of natives on the Trail of Tears, all different tribes.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma, there are 38 different tribes. 4 are from Oklahoma, and the rest are not. That's how much all different Trail of Tears happens. Even there's a California tribe that is in Oklahoma now. They're sending them over there. And they don't have no Dawes rules. They have different rules. All tribes have different rules. Different rules in their tribe to become a tribal member. And none of them didn't own slaves. It's only 4 tribes only own slaves. And all the rest of them didn't. I'm just giving you a little bit of history about that.
Nah, man, it's always welcome.
You know, because they always think there's only 4 tribes in the southeast, or 5 tribes only in the southeast, when there's many more tribes. And it just trips me out. Like, why you always claim the people that enslaved you? You know, this don't make sense.
Nah, not at all. Why do they mostly only claim tribes in the South but never the North? Because they don't know any, and those that they claim in the North, they don't have evidence for a lot of this. So a lot of this, they never had it. Hold on 1 second. What's good, bro?
All right. What I'm saying about the Dawes Rolls, I'm listening to everything you're saying. Respect, first off, respect.
Hold on. Yeah. Come on, man. You know, introduce yourself, man, and let the people know who you are.
I'm World Peace. I'm on here. I know I'm talking a lot of mess, but I'm just messing with y'all, making it entertaining. Much respect.
Where you from?
But if we're talking about like in court, I'm from, man, you don't want to know where I'm from. I'm from Cologne, Panama, man. I'm from Cologne, Panama.
No,
I'm from
Is that where you are right now?
No. I'm in Portland, Oregon. I'd be in Bakersfield. You know, I'd be on the West Coast. I'd be all Cali, Portland, Seattle, all that shit.
Yeah, no. Just letting you introduce yourself, man, so people know who they're dealing with. Because you know, you got
I'm the one on there talking all that mess. But what I was going to say is now in a court of law, if you're going to do evidence, the Dawes Rolls is a document that was strong enough for them to steal the land. So you got to respect the Dawes. It was a document strong enough for them to go into court and actually steal the land through the Dawes Roll. So that's the heaviest evidence I've seen.
Hold up, world peace. Who is they? Who stole the land using the Dawes Roll?
The American government, the government, the colonizers, the ones that came.
They didn't need a Dawes Roll to steal the land, brother. The intent of the Dawes Rolls.
Well, the $5 Indian Act was how they got on the Dawes Rolls, and the people of the land still own the land. But also the land was never stolen. It was just leased. It's still validly the legal people. It's legally still the people's. It's a crazy situation. It's all law though. It's a law situation, but
all right. So listen to truth first. Go ahead, Truth.
Huh?
All right, listen to Truth first real quick. Go ahead, Truth.
Okay. I am a Choctaw tribal member, and my family's on the Dawes Rolls. That's not what that is. See, the Dawes Rolls, when they made Native Americans as American citizens, they have their own census. So the Dawes Rolls is their census. So when they brung up the Dawes Rolls, that made them American citizens now. Has nothing to do with taking land or anything like that.
Well,
has nothing to do with that.
Well, that's what the $5 Indian Act was. It was for there's
no $5 Indian Act.
Okay, there you go.
A white man who was paying $5 to get on the rolls to get land.
So hold on, let me answer me this. You were on the Dawes Roll, right?
No, I'm not on the Dawes Roll. My family were.
Your family was. Did you read the names on the Dawes Roll?
Yeah, they're my family.
Did you read the other names?
There's no other names.
Oh, there's only your family's on the Dawes Roll.
No,
yeah,
you missing what he's saying.
They have their own roll numbers. See,
there is a list.
No, I have it right now. I can bring it up right now. I have the list.
I have it too on my Instagram.
Well, you have a fake Dawes Roll.
I have a lot of different ones. I have the ones that show the percent.
Hey, brother, you could go online. I forgot what website is it. Just go on the Dawes Rolls and you can look at the list. You go on tribes and you can look at the Dawes Rolls. See, when the parents is an Indian, will have their name. Then they'll have their kids' names under it. Those are the other people on the Dawes Rolls. It's their kids. That's it. And they're under their parents' roll number.
Okay. I honestly don't know what he's talking about.
Hold on before you respond to that. So again, Vasa, who was in Oklahoma, who was also just like Truth Hurts. All right. He's telling you the land was stolen before the displacement of tribes that leads to Dawes. So when you mentioned that they were using this for the land, you got the cart before the horse.
Well, I just want to say a simple statement. Look up the names on the Dawes Rolls. They're all Americans. There's Wilsons and Jacksons, and there's Washingtons and Greens, and
we know that they paid to get their name on there to be a part.
But you're thinking that. See, we got a different ideology. You think that's their names. I'm telling you, that's our names that they stole from us.
No.
See, that's what I believe. I mean, that's what my evidence brought me to.
Bro, those Williams, Jenkins, and all of those names,
ours.
No, bro.
Did you know there was black kings and queens in Europe? Did you know there was black kings and queens in Europe?
Bro, stop.
Did you know that?
No, stop.
You didn't know that?
Stop.
Okay, well,
to me.
Look it up.
Listen, no, I'm not going down Pseudoville.
Those are our names.
No, they're not.
Are you a European?
Those are our names. Okay, that's just a difference of opinion. I respect your opinion, but that's my opinion. Those are our names.
That's your opinion. See, that's the
But the Dawes Roll is not my opinion. The Dawes Roll is a document that had people stealing land because it was that powerful in court.
One more
If
time.
I could take this document in court and steal your land, that is.
You kept saying you kept saying
if I can take a document in court and steal your land, you got to respect that document.
No, you're not listening. The $5 Indian thing was for what? What is the use of the $5 Indian, and who are they referring to as $5 Indian?
The $5 Indians was basically, not to be disrespectful to anybody's race, was basically the white people with 1/16th or 1/30th drop of blood of Indian blood. They could be on the Dawes Roll as long as they had like a 1/16th blood drop.
They paid to be on the Dawes Roll.
Because the Dawes Roll gave you the land. If you're on the Dawes Roll, you got the land. Okay, so why do they want to be on the Dawes Roll then? Why do they want to be on it then?
I know all this about stuff on the tribe. Look.
He is not, I don't know what he's talking about at all. He don't know one name on the Dawes Roll. He said his family's the only name on the Dawes Roll. He don't know what he's talking about.
Yes,
Bro, the Dawes Roll got Wilson and Jackson and all kinds of.
If you want to know the Wilson and Jackson, you got to shut up and listen so I can tell you. All right?
Listen to him.
So the Wilson and Jacksons comes from European names. They got those names in boarding school. When they went to boarding school, they could not have their Indian names. So they give them a list of names, and they point their finger, and that's their new name. It's a white name. Now, the ones that didn't go to boarding school still have their traditional names. They go by clan names like Musanatubi, Tubi, Nadubi, Natubi, all that. Running Bear Eagle Road. If those people on the res have those names, their parents was never mixed in with white people and got white last names, or they never went to boarding school because their parents hide them from the white folks from not getting kidnapped to send them to boarding schools. And that's why some of the natives on the res still have their traditional names. Just like my family's real name is Mashanatubi. But no, my great-great-grandparent went to boarding school and had to pick a white name, and that was Williams. So my family's new name is Williams. And the white people that paid $5 to be on the Dawes Rolls were just doing that for land. There was not blood. There wasn't Indian. They were pure European. And to the native people, when they give the rights to indigenous people to control their own rolls and their blood quantum, they kicked all the $5 white dollar Indians out. Because they knew there was an Indian in part of our tribe. They kicked them out because we control our rules. We have our own laws on our reservation. And plus, I don't know where you get land and all that stuff because everybody on the res don't have land. We share the land. If I buy a house and I build me a fence, that's not my property. Somebody could put a house right there where I'll build a fence because we share the land. That's what sucks. So you can get a house in the middle of nowhere on the res. You got all this land. Until somebody built a house right next to you, you got to tear down the whole fence because we share land. We don't have our own land. We share it. There's no property line. We don't have none of that. So what the hell are you talking about? And I'm done. Let him talk because he just keeps going.
People on the Dawes Roll in court.
We didn't hear you say it again.
The land that he's speaking of, the land that the federal government made a deal with them for, are actually owned by the people on the Dawes Roll. It's right there. It's a document. Why are we arguing about a document? Either the document's fake or it's real. I mean, if you're arguing that it's fake, then that's that.
I don't think that you understand the Dawes Rolls. Another thing, Devasa says in the chat, how you going to be from Panama, home of my favorite Seminole stories, and not give the dynamics between African peoples and natives?
Because none of buddy in my family's from Africa. Actually, to be perfectly honest, I'm gonna be 100 with you. We're actually, can I speak? I can tell you where we're really from.
He's specific.
You don't want to know.
Listen,
I can tell you where. Huh?
Bro, do you realize how did you get to Panama?
How did I get? I was born there. No, I was about to tell you. I can tell you. I was about to tell you. My dad told me our last name we're Scottish. We actually go back to Scottish, the Black Scottish. See, now they're going to tell you that we're the slave owner's last name, but really that was us.
So have you ever looked at Black Scottish?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What does it say? What did they say the Black Scottish descend from?
I didn't see where we descend from. Some of them say that they were Aborigines of Europe.
Are
I mean,
you
to be
sure?
perfectly honest, I mean, that's what it said. I mean, they said that the Black Irish was there so long, they said they were mistaken to be the Aborigines of the land. But that's a
Are
whole
you
nother can of worms. I don't even want to get into that. I want to stick to America, man.
No, don't run. Don't
I'm not
run. When I
running.
asked
I
you the
mean,
question. So I asked you the question for a reason. Because I need to
okay.
know how much you actually studying, bro. How are you
I do.
qualifying your position? Because you keep giving me your belief. So here we go. The Black Scottish people are a racial or ethnic group of Scottish who identify as or are ethnically African or Black.
Bro, listen to me. That there is not proof that that is a fact. That is, oh my God.
Oh, listen. Used in association with Black Scottish identity, the term commonly refers to Scottish of Black, Scottish of Black, Scottish of Black, and African Caribbean descent. The group, also referred to as African Scottish, Afro Scottish, Black Scottish, represent approximately 0.7% of the total population of Scotland. So when we keep on talking about Black Europeans and all these notable motherfuckers and all these people doing this shit, we know who we are. Stop denying your Africanness with this bullshit. Now, you also said some other shit about Black kings and queens of Europe.
Why they always keep talking? They just keep going over and over you.
Right. So now when he says that there were Black kings and queens, he's using the whole Moorish argument. Then he mutters that's gonna muddy the water, and we all know that that's some bullshit. And the whole truth of the matter is them motherfuckers are from Africa. Some people that went, up into Africa and yada yada yada. Someone muddied the water and did all of this stuff. So we're not getting into the whole Black kings and queens who ruled Europe bullshit, because that's pseudo. That's gonna cause another pseudo stuff. And yes, there are mad people in Jamaica. There are mad people in Haiti and other Caribbean islands who have Scottish ancestry in them. Goddamn. One of the people on the Dagger Squad, the main head person, Garfield, has Scottish ancestry. He's Jamaican. He's done 10 DNA tests. But we know this because of that. We know. Nah, man. Akili, this is a different argument. Akili, this is a different argument from old boy yesterday. 2 days ago. That's a different argument. He's coming from ignorance. And the people that are claiming this whole Black ruling shit, that's pseudo. European climate will create Black skin? Absolutely not, King Rob. Scottish hater. He's going to bring up the Black word in England. That doesn't mean anything. He can bring up whoever he wants to bring up. That has nothing to do with it. So again, for correction purposes, to substantiate what Truth Hurt says, the Dawes was a land grab. There were hundreds of whites with little or no tribal blood. The tribes have been cleaning their rolls for the past 50 years or so. Once again, the Dawes was a land grab. They have been cleaning the rolls. Truth Hurts has said it. He has Native American blood in him. A lot of that shit, like, was it 46%? And Thomas has a shitload of it because they're indigenous to this fucking land. You might not like it. You ain't even from the motherfucking land. You is a descendant of motherfucking us. You're denying your Africanness. You said your father said that y'all were Black Scottish. And he's correct. Y'all are Black Scottish. Y'all Black asses is of African descent. Now, before you say anything, I need to introduce the Bandit Anansi. How are you doing, brother?
How you doing? I just want to first to say, all right, hold on. I got my kids out here, so sorry about that.
You good?
But like, I want to say I'm sorry you have to go through this with these wobbles, bro. I'm like, I don't even watch the channel that much, but when I come back, I see your stuff up, and you got like really interesting stuff there, and just dealing with these guys, man. Like it's like a virus. I'm an American. My descendants are mainly from Ghana and Mali, and these people want to deny that they're descendants from people who had literal empires. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Empires. Like it just boggles my mind. They will trade. These are the type of people that's gonna sell what? Hold on. Yeah, these are the type of people that's gonna sell things for pennies on a dollar. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I gotta say. But keep up the work, bro. I like your stuff. So I just want to hop on and say that.
No problem, bro.
I gotta go. My kids acting wild.
No, you good. I totally understand. Appreciate you hopping on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So world peace. This is your last hoorah, brother.
I just want to say one thing before I go. I just want to say the Dawes Roll is just a heavier document of evidence than what you're bringing. That's all I want to say. It's just more evidence. It's just a heavier document. It could be used in court. It could be used in court. Nothing you brought could be used in court, sir.
Yes,
Nothing.
Bro.
Nothing you brought could be used in court, sir. Nothing you brought could be used in court, sir.
Listen.
Can't be used in court, sir. The Dawes Roll is used in court, sir.
Okay.
It's a heavier amount of evidence. The Dawes Roll is a heavier amount of evidence to support my opinion. It's a heavier amount of evidence.
DNA. Digest it.
I don't even know if DNA is real. I've been hearing some fake stuff about that DNA crap, man. I don't know about that.
How do you think?
I know they can tell if somebody's lying.
Let's show you how much you know, bro. They did a whole study on Native Americans to help them with their identity.
Who did a study? What? The people that are lying to you?
No.
That's the only experts, and the experts say this. That's the people that's lying to you.
How the fuck did the DNA help the Native Americans get their shit? Stupid motherfucker. The whole genetic testing incident that transpired with the Native Americans helped them get their shit. It helped them when they needed to get the rights to the land, when they found them damn 10,000-year-old kids' bones. They deemed it sacred ground, and it was protected by the Indian Act, which allowed them to claim that shit. And you finna sit here and tell me that that shit is fake? No, motherfucker. We've seen it several times in history. Prove the Indian right so that they can get that land, make that land sacred, and provide proper burial for those bones that were excavated and found during archaeological digs and construction digs by accident. So stop your DNA denial bullshit. You talking about some goddamn Dawes rolls. They cleaning up the rolls. They gonna get the land regardless because they were white people during that time. That meant nothing. This whole land was stolen. That ain't nothing new to us. We know what the hell was going on. We knew white people was putting their names on there just so they can get fucking extra land. We knew what they were doing, and the government was going to allow them to do that. That substantiated it. Once one white person did it, hell, hundreds or more, thousands or more did it. That means nothing. It is irrelevant. I don't know why you came up here stupid. Once again, with your opinion. Now, I allowed you an opportunity to express your opinion. You've been expressing it in the chat. We tired of hearing that bullshit. You don't even understand the intent and purpose of the Dawes Rolls and what it's for. So you have to go. There's no need for you anymore, brother. No need. Because you don't want to listen. You said that your motherfucking family was black. Your father told you that y'all were black Scottish. I simply pulled that shit up to show you that you don't know shit about black Scottish. And it simply told you that you motherfuckers are African descent. And you denying that. No, that's wrong. No. But then the Dawes roll can be used in court. So can DNA. So what difference does that make? Now, if they took a DNA test of all the motherfuckers on the Dawes rolls, they're gonna kick out way more people off the damn Dawes rolls. They're gonna clean the shit all the way up. And then all the $5 Indians would be exposed. And now would the government be nice enough to make the motherfuckers turn over the land to the Native Americans, who shit it really is? See, we not asking the right shit. Fucking stupid, man. What up, old dogs?
What up, big dog? How you doing today, Sean?
I'm cooling, bro. Look at Thomas. Look what Thomas says. There were plenty of noble people, kings and queens in Africa. Why in the hell would any person of black ancestry want to claim to be the most imperialistic nations in history? I don't know, Thomas. To add, he says more tribes are using maternal-paternal DNA testing to help bypass lost records, usually at the fault of the BIA. That's cool. Appreciate that info. I wish the 5 tribes would with us like other tribes. DNA is the block of life. Absolutely, Thomas. Because if y'all use DNA, you eliminate a lot of motherfucking shit.
Yeah.
That's my thing. It would substantiate the differences here and allow us to fully understand who's who and why we need to get the fuck out y'all realm.
Right, and expose the real villains of this story, and we know who that is. But I was gonna ask that dude, one that you was just talking to. I was gonna do him the same way you did Top Rats the other night, and ask him, well, why are you? Since you want to keep on bringing up the Dawes rolls, why are you broke? Where's your money at? You know what I'm saying? Why you not? If you were part of the Dawes rolls, you supposed to be a part of these tribes that's over there, and with these making these billions and trillions of dollars every year, and not having to work. You should be staying in a big, nice house, getting your 200. You know, and again, I understand that all tribes are getting that money, but these particular ones are. So why in the hell is you broke? You sit up here with some damn rubber bands in your head, looking like you 8 years old, man. Come on. But you on somebody's show or on somebody's channel talking this BS as if you really know what you're talking about. Period. It's time out for this shit, man. These days, I don't know why they won't grow up. Man. They want to play cowboys and Indians.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
Lawson said biggest cause are that the blacks who were scared to sign denied the right to sign for multiple excuses, examples, timeout, and or having similar last names to someone on it. Yeah, that's an issue. But nah, man, it is what it is. It is what it is, bro. Like he went from I didn't have no time, bro. You at home, you ain't doing shit. Sitting on the couch, pretending to be an Indian.
Pretending. That's crazy. Hey, so your boy,
you're stealing that shit.
I don't know how you can pretend to be an Indian. It's more than that to be an Indian.
Right. You
lifestyle we live.
You exactly, and you demonstrated the lifestyle the last time you were here. You took us in your backyard and you showed us what was up. You gave us an explanation of why y'all did certain shit and what pattern and so on and so forth. And the evidence that even we went over today, support all the shit that you do, bro. Every show, I make sure that we support y'all shit because that clearly draws distinctions. And these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about because they're too busy acting. While y'all are doing, they're acting. The gig is up, man. Straight up.
Yeah, they getting pushed into a corner more and more, and again they're becoming more and more desperate. So they're starting to look at the Moors and the Hebrews for allyship. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Type of doctrine is coming up next. So all of them going to try to get together and come against the African American, the true African American, those of us who are proud of our history and our heritage. So that's forthcoming, and I tell you, I'm the first one that's going. I'm the first one reporting that on your channel. What's
Yeah.
that? What's that true? What's that true?
Tell them what it
Oh,
is. We can't hear you on mute. You on mute, True.
Ah,
There you go.
feathers, beads. This is our tradition. Leather. This is what we do. We bead feathers. For tradition, we earn our feathers, like this one right here. This is the red-tailed hawk feather. Comes from America. You know, our beads. These are white man beads. You know why we have white man beads? Because we never had these like this. Because when the fur traders will come, we trade fur for white man stuff because they have some good shit. So these beads, we never made beads like this. They traded beads to us. So now we buy them at thrift stores or our books, order them online now. You know, we still use them. You know, and this is right here. You know, doing indigenous stuff is hard work. You know, this right here, we poke the leather so we can sew it. Cause you try to stick a needle in there like that, it's just hard. You know, this stuff takes hard work to make. You know, you got to put your mind into it. You know, you don't sit around at home to be thinking you're an Indian. You know, we do actual Indian traditional stuff. This is what we do.
could
Beat,
I ask you, could I ask you a question?
yeah.
In respects to the feathers, um, are owning those feathers illegal from your tradition, or and how do you earn the feathers, or can you just go pick up feathers from anywhere?
We earn our feathers. Like this one, I earned this one years ago, and I have eagle feathers. I beat it up that are placed safe and stuff. So we earn our feathers. You know, we just don't come and pluck them and keep them for ourselves. Nah, we have to earn them. You know, and as Choctaw people, only men can only have feathers. Women can't. You know, some tribes women could have feathers, but in our tribe, no, women can't have feathers at all unless she's old and don't get her period no more. That's our tradition. So women are not allowed to have feathers, only the men. And you see these people claiming they're Choctaw wearing fake headbands, war bonnets from the internet they bought from China. And women are wearing war bonnets where women don't really wear war bonnets. That's a man headdress, not a woman, you know? And
Yeah,
only
they be having them on too.
Yeah, only indigenous people could have feathers, like eagles and hawk feathers. We can only have them. Nobody can. It's against the law. You'll pay a hefty fine if you not Indian having these feathers and stuff.
You know, these pretendians do not know that. They don't even understand the importance of this culture, man. They don't have no details about the culture in and of itself. Constantly exposing them. Constantly exposing them.
There was a video. I forgot his name. He's a wobble too. He has some weird feather in his head. I was like, oh, it looked weird. They don't realize, man. You gotta wash your feathers first before you get head lice, and blind people do get lice too. It don't matter. But this guy claimed he had an eagle feather, and he had it in his afro. That shit look dirty as hell. Could be some parasite shit in there, and he puts that on his head. Man, you gotta wash them first. But it wasn't no eagle feather though. But then after that, he made a next video a week later, and he still had that feather, and it was all beat up and messed up. You have to respect your feathers. You know, we don't disrespect our feathers. We don't mess them up. We don't ruin them. We clean them before we take them, because you know they might have bugs, lice in them. You know, and we respect them. We keep them nice. We do not ruin them. We don't crush them or nothing. That dude feather was all fucked up the next day.
What's the
So
importance of the feathers?
to us, the feathers are more important to us as warriors. So if you're like a warrior, you'll get them. And if you nowadays, if you do good in school, like graduate and all that stuff, you get a feather now. Because since the war days are over, if you join the military, only way to be a warrior as an indigenous person today, you have to join the military, and you actually got to fight war, and you get your warrior feather. But if you're not fighting in the war, you're not gonna get a feather for being a warrior. You just get them for doing good in school, doing good for the tribe, and all that stuff. Helping elders, and you earn your feather like that now. It's not like in the old days and stuff. I got mine because I finished my school and I got my certifications and all that stuff. So I earned my feather a lot like that.
All right, so Keisha had a question in the chat. She said, "Getting the dolls rolls include both approved and rejected names." That would be yes. That's why they cleaning the dolls rolls, because there were approved and rejected names on the rolls. And one day you'll be able to look at the rolls from the last signature to after the cleanup job, and then you'll be able to see how many people names that came off those rolls. Now, if they take it a step further and they do DNA, that's going to push it even further out and really give justification to the indigenous. So,
Hey Sean, why are a lot of the indigenous tribes, why don't they give their DNA at this moment? Because I think I heard that somewhere where
have, some of them have quarrels. Some of the tribes that may have Europeans or a lot of European ancestry could fall at the hands of DNA due to admixture and so on and so forth. But there was originally some skepticism, but then DNA has slowly been proving their arguments. So, the more of them that do the test, get the test, the better it is for them. That allows Native American story or Amerindian or Paleo Indian or, if they want to be called, if they want to be called by tribe, and that allowed that story to be told to where we could respect it peacefully. And you know what I mean? And everybody now can properly classify.
so when it come down to like these different nations, Indian nations, they had their constitutions where they wrote in these constitutions that it was okay for a white man to marry an Indian woman and not okay for an African descendant or African
That's
or
because of
ex-slave.
European.
I'm sorry?
That's European influence.
Yeah. So with that,
That's part of the acceptance.
that was a part of the acceptance.
Yeah, but as far as being recognized, but that doesn't matter because humans are humans, bro. If you see a fine woman who just so happens to be a Native American, she fine.
Yeah, I'm on her.
You know what I mean? You and she's feeling you, you feeling her, what's gonna happen?
I'm on her. It's a wrap.
9 months later, you got a Native and Black child. Now, because of those laws back then, that child would be deemed a slave if the father was. So if the father was a free Black, then there's still limitations to that child. But either, I mean, I don't even have to tell the damn story. We got Truth Hurts right here on the panel.
Right.
He got African.
Right. So my question on that note, because they know that as a group or as a nation that they conceded to this and they agreed to this to these stipulations, why would DNA be an issue for them now, knowing that?
I can't answer that for all of them. I can't. It's gonna take younger people to be able to transition that, because a lot of them are stuck and settled in their ways. They don't wanna be tampered with. They just like some black people got issues with like medical field or whatever the case may be, or science, race science, no matter how pseudo that is, a lot of them are like that. You have a lot of them that are stuck in their ways, and they do things according to how the tribe moves. So if they had councils that would educate and move them forward into that era, then I would see that. But as you can see, Truth Hurt's done his DNA. Thomas in the chat has done his DNA. Those things are substantial. But the more people that they continue to test, which I think they're testing more people up to this point, because the science behind it is getting even better with like giving specifics. But I can't. Growing every day. They'll change that everything. I mean, everybody gonna evolve.
Yeah.
They use that shit when they need it.
Absolutely.
Listen, let a 15 or 20,000-year-old human being pop up somewhere in the United States. I bet you, and DNA is extracted. I guarantee you that wherever they found their body at, that's gonna be Indian territory. Period. Point. And the DNA is gonna prove that, because they lost. I mean, the United States lost a battle to the Indians over land that they were trying to develop and build on because of DNA. That's the end of the story. That's the conversation over with. That's how powerful this shit is.
Kryptonite. It's kryptonite.
Yeah, it ain't our battle. We got a whole different.
No doubt.
But yeah, man, look, I've been on here for almost 3 hours. I'm gonna wind down, man. I don't know who else going live or whatever the case may be. I do appreciate Thomas, Truth Hurts and Thomas, y'all hopping in the chats, and Truth, you hopping on the panel. Old dog, you hopping up, pulling up. The other brother, I forget his name, Bantu. Appreciate him hopping on, and even the World Peace guy for spewing his ignorance louder, for having a voice. He made some mistakes in that we don't want to deal with, but I want to appreciate everybody coming out, man, and I might be live later, man. So y'all enjoy your afternoon. It is Friday. Peace. And
peace, brother.
Peace to you, big dog.